The entire country is asking just one question. Why did the government do this? Why did the government give Pakistan an alibi? Why did the government try and make it easy for Pakistan? Why was the government playing Pakistan's line? Why was our government playing into the Pakistan Army's hands? What was going on in the government of India that they worked overtime to ensure that Islamabad is not embarrassed? Where is the sense of duty, national spirit, national interest and personal conscience? Where was it all gone for 3 days before, after being beaten to admit the truth by the opposition and the media, the government did a U-turn? And that's the brutal fact. And finally, of course, the question remains, where is our Prime Minister in all of this? On the Newshour tonight, Rajiv Gowda represents the Congress Party point of view. Also representing the ruling coalition's point of view on the program is DP Tripathi, spokesperson and member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha. My friend and colleague Maruf Raza, Times Now strategic affairs expert, joins us on the panel, as do KC Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Seshadri Chari, convener, Foreign Affairs Cell of the BJP, and Kunal Verma, defense analyst and author. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining. Let's begin by putting the ball in the government's court, the UPA's court. Why did you do this, Rajiv Gowda? Why did your government try to compromise national interest by arguing Pakistan's case until we caught it red-handed?
Arnab, basically the defense minister came out with a statement to Parliament as soon as he had information on the subject. And as the information changed, got more detailed, got more clarified, and it became clear that the Pakistan Army's hand was involved, that is the report that he made, placed before Parliament.
That's not
so
true.
That is exactly
That's
the story.
Not true, Rajiv.
Everything
you
else
know it's not
is your
true. What the government did,
it is
what
your
the government did,
interpretation.
Rajiv,
It is your interpretation.
What the defense
and your interpretation
did.
on an issue
No, that's
of
not true, Rajiv.
national security is
there
totally
is no
uncalled for.
interpretation. It's a
Your
fact.
interpretation is totally uncalled for.
There's no interpretation.
Do you get information?
There is no interpretation. Your government has been accused by the opposition of trying to embrace Pakistan, and that's the point. Let's get the others in. KC Singh, what do you think? Rajiv Gowda, let's get the non-political point of view before I get Seshadri Chari in. You're being very aggressive in your opening comments, but let's hear it from an ex-diplomat. KC Singh.
Arnab, this is, I would call it Sharm el-Sheikh 2.
Sharm el-Sheikh 2.
It's the same kind of bad drafting. It's an attempt to protect what they think is the dialogue with Pakistan. That is sacrosanct. You ignored the morale of the army. You ignored public opinion. You thought you could protect that, and your meeting with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif in September. Back channels were working.
Oh, yes.
Secretaries were beginning to meet.
Yep.
Composite dialogue was back on track, and they suddenly found it derailed. Now, when you tell them that these are testing points, and the testing point was, why was there silence from Nawaz Sharif? Okay, spoilers have done this. We assume that spoilers in the army and outside have done it.
Spoilers isn't, you're saying, suppose it's, you're saying non...
Why did not Nawaz Sharif pick up the phone and speak to Prime Minister or Prime Minister to Nawaz Sharif and say, I'm ordering an inquiry to see why it has happened, because there's a group which has come from across the border.
Why would Nawaz Sharif do that?
Why
would the Prime
He's in London.
No, why would...
He's on vacation in London.
Why would the Prime Minister of Pakistan do that when he knows that the case for Pakistan is being argued by the government of India?
That is precisely what happened. And I think Mr. Antony, realizing this, he's an honorable man. He's gone back, he's dug in today, and he's read the Riot Act.
You know, I heard Shiv Shankar Menon tell somebody today on the floor of steps of Parliament that, you know, he didn't know about this. That they had no idea. Maruf, you believe that? That the government,
there's one common person between Sharm el-Sheikh and this.
Is Shiv Shankar Menon.
And you named him.
Shiv Shankar Menon. Maruf, do you think this could have happened only at Antony's level?
Arnab, the Prime Minister and some of his close cronies, I don't want to take names, some names are being thrown up, but the fact is that many of them are wedded to this idea that it is India's responsibility to strengthen Pakistan's democratic credentials. America has tried and failed. India has its own role to play, it has its own interests, and in the case of Pakistan, if whether it's whatever cover the apologists in the Congress are now giving to Mr. Antony and his statement.
No, it's not apologists in the Congress, it is the Congress.
Yeah.
Rajiv Gowda is
that's
the
what I'm saying.
Congress.
So what I'm saying, they are apologists within the Congress. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that Mr. Antony, if as Defence Minister of India, having been in the chair for 5 to 7 years, doesn't know that there is such a close nexus between the Pakistan Army and the Lashkar and the Pakistan. It's on record by people to say that the army officers and men take leave to train and fight with Lashkar and cross the LOC with the Lashkar.
Why does the government,
everyone knows it. This is in the public domain. And then you have the government trying to say that, you know, there was maybe just terrorists, firstly. Secondly, the point is, the government is, there are people in the government who think there is a big fruit to grab from the tree ahead in the international arena and get kudos and win international recognition for trying to solve. If Obama can get a peace prize without doing peace but entering 3 war conflicts, so why can't we look at possibly getting some kind of a international recognition for our peace efforts?
Rajiv Gowda seems upset with that comment. I'll go back to you, Rajiv. You see, I'd like to get DP Tripathi, and he supports the government. I want to know, Mr. DP Tripathi, the extent of your support and whether you believe that the Prime Minister, his National Security Advisor, his Foreign Secretary had no idea about this attempt to compromise national interest. Mr. Tripathi.
No. I entirely disagree with that concept and assessment, Mr. Goswami. Please kindly listen to me. I did not interfere with anybody's remarks, so I do not wish anybody to interfere with mine.
Please continue.
Fortunately have a defense minister. We fortunately have a defense minister whose commitment to honesty, integrity and national interest is undoubted by most of the political class and media also. Everybody who understands Indian politics understands the honesty and uprightness of Mr. Antony. So that is a question undebatable. The second point is, in the changed world order, do you think warmongering and creating hatred helps any kind of conduct of international relations, and especially with neighbors? It doesn't.
Who's doing the warmongering? I want you to be precise. No, 1 second. Who's doing the warmongering? Who's doing the warmongering? Be precise with me, Mr. DP Tripathi. Who is doing the warmongering? Because while I'm talking about, and if your insinuation is on the media, then let me tell you, it's a responsibility of the media to uphold national interest.
No, it is
and if a compromise of national interest is being done by even your Prime Minister, we will question it.
Not on the media. Please listen to me. Listen to me. Let me complete. You see, that is what I'm saying. But the warmongering is from the Pakistan Army and the ISI. This has been proved without any iota of doubt. This has been happening. So what Mr. Goswami you are saying, and Mr.
Why was your Prime Minister protecting Pakistan then?
Experienced diplomat.
No, 1 second. I have 2 questions.
No.
I
am telling you with all frankness.
One second, sir. Sorry to be direct. The question is, if the Prime Minister, there are 2 arguments made. One is Prime Minister did not know. The Prime Minister did not know, then why is he the Prime Minister? And the second point is this, you talk about Antony's personal honesty. Is this about Antony's personal honesty, Mr. Chari? Or is this about Antony being a buffer for the Prime Minister, or why India's national interest was compromised?
No, I have great respect and regard for Mr. Tripathi, but let him not plead the case of a total mishandling of a situation and put it at the door of somebody's honesty. We require an honest minister, no doubt. But we also require a defense minister who understands the strategy and the strengths of this country. And I am glad that after all these things that has happened today, he has at least had the courage of reading a statement today in Parliament where he has said something about the consequence of our behavior as a result of Pakistan's action.
On LOC.
On LOC.
Well, he's been forced to say that. He's been forced to say that. He's been retracted to say that.
Even if he's forced to say this, I hope he does not retract this, and I also hope that this sends the proper signals to the Indian Army to take an appropriate action, which the Army Chief promised in January.
But let's get Kunal in, and then I'll open it up. Rajiv, I know you want a second.
Just one quick point, and that is, too much is made out in our political scenario of individual honesties of individuals. The point at issue is, if you are honest, thou shalt not lie, steal or cheat or tolerate others who do so.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So the fact of the matter is that honesty apart, Mr. Anthony should have stood up with, I mean, are you trying to tell me in an electronic age, you need the army chief to go to the LOC to ascertain where Pakistan army was involved or not?
Absolutely not.
I mean, what kind of humbug is this? And we are trying to say that I'm waiting for the army chief to come and give me the actual correct input. That means all other military commanders down the chain are incompetent or you don't trust them. I mean, this is bizarre. I think India needs, as Mr. Chari, I support Mr. Chari's view, you need a leadership which understands our strategic strengths and positions India the way India should be positioned. We don't want embarrassment anymore.
I think why the government is looking so bad in this, and please don't mind my being very direct today, Rajiv, and I'll give you full opportunity to respond. Why your government is looking pathetic in this is because the allegation is about fabrication of fact. The second press release was not concealment of fact. It was concealment of fact and fabrication of fact. Removal of some things, selectively putting things out to exonerate Pakistan. And before I come back to you, I'd like to get Kunal this. How is this going to cost the nation?
The third thing is making the army retract its statement yesterday.
Absolutely. Embarrassing the army yesterday. Amounts to almost saying that the army was lying in its first statement, whereas the fact of the matter is it was the government of India which was lying in the second statement.
And the defense minister doing this is even more shameful.
And I'm only asking, what is the compelling reason why the government has done something?
Kunal,
how will this cost the nation?
We are getting mixed signals from the PMO time and again. You had the track 2 business around Siachen, for example. There was a whole uproar about the whole thing. PMO didn't say a word. They in fact went along with a lot of people who were supposed to have been propped up into the whole thing.
That's true.
Again, what's going on? I mean, the army today is in a position where the junior commanders who should be taking decisions on the ground are hesitating to do anything because there's nobody to hold their hand. They don't know where the signals are coming from.
That's true.
The signals from the PMO today are absolutely mixed. They're garbled. As an Indian today, I don't know what to think myself. It is shameful, absolutely, what is happening.
Well, I think, you know, first of all, Rajiv, I want you to admit that the position taken by your esteemed foreign minister on the Newshour yesterday, the position taken by your esteemed Congress party spokesperson on the Newshour yesterday, Mr. P.C. Chako, who said there's no difference between the two letters. P.C. Chako was on Newshour yesterday, Rajiv Gowda, and he said there's no difference between the two letters. He said you are imagining it, the whole country is making it up. And he tried to push the case that there was no U-turn in the first place. Now, the Congress explanation for the change is not clear. Mr. Gowda, Salman Khurshid says that the army which issued the first letter made a mistake and a corrected statement was read out by A.K. Antony in Parliament yesterday. Now everybody will ask you a simple question, and that's where you will be caught red-handed a second time. So evaluate what you're going to say. If the first release was a mistake, the government has gone back to the original stand taken in the first release. The first release categorically held the Pakistan army responsible, and that was what Antony said today. So clearly, based on what transpired today, the revised letter was a fabrication of fact. The revised letter was a lie. Why did the government of India lie? Why did the government lie? We want to know why your government lied on this issue. Mr. Rajiv Gowda, give us a convincing answer tonight.
Arnab Goswami, the government of India has not lied to you or to the nation. The government of India has clarified the facts. Essentially, you have had a situation where you had information coming in initially. We have a very, very sensitive border issue, and you do not want to provoke more, and worsen whatever efforts are being made to normalize relations. So you are waiting for clarification.
Because you feel you don't want to provoke, you will lie about the facts about the involvement of the Pakistani army. How ethical is that?
Not at all. Not at all. What is national interest in this context, Arnab Goswami? It is having a peaceful neighborhood and peaceful relations with all our neighbors.
The country wants to know the truth.
So it is not.
And you did not tell them the truth. You knew the truth. You hid the facts. You changed the statement. Now you've been forced to go back.
You might have to retract later. If you say that it was the Pakistan army first up front without clarifying once and double checking, you are creating more trouble, and you would have asked for a retraction if that wasn't the case.
No.
So
What do you need to
essentially,
double
what
check?
No, one second. We're getting reaction.
Please tell me.
Mr. Gowda, remember this.
He
Mr. Gowda, remember this.
very
You
urgently,
have given
and when
a
the
reason
facts
to
have come out,
Pakistan to
he
deny
has
their
responded
involvement,
and clarified.
and they will
Any
point
other
inconsistencies
interpretation
within the
is
Indian
not
government to
international.
claim our stand is
It
not
is
united.
basically you
That's where you have
provoking
compromised
for no
national
reason
interest, Mr.
whatsoever.
Gowda. And that's not acceptable,
Not
Mr.
at all.
Gowda.
Not at all. Not at
That's
all.
not acceptable.
Not at all.
At
I'm really-
what-
Let's get right. Shadri Chari is contesting you. The BJP is here.
He has to tell us at what stage the government decided, especially the defense minister decided, that this is a sensitive issue.
Yeah.
When the defense minister says that a number of people who were civilians who were actually wearing the Pakistani army fatigue came and fired and killed 5 Jawans in India and went back, and the Pakistani army did not even know this, was he making a proper statement in the parliament of the country?
And if he did not know the facts, why did he make the
why did he make the statement in the first place?
If he did not know the fact, why did he not tell Parliament, I know nothing,
I know, he
I
could
will
have easily
respond
said
after
that.
getting to know? Why did
And
he
then
put out the wrong facts?
Come on.
And not
Why
only
are you
that,
giving
he
this
had
sort of
the
an
facts
extreme
right
viewpoint?
on his hand and he did not speak from the facts.
He's responding.
He changed the statement.
Let's give him a chance to respond. Let's give Mr. Gowda a chance to respond.
Confirmation. Mr. Anthony wanted confirmation, and once he got the confirmation, you have the facts. There is nothing erroneous in the statement which says people wearing a Pakistani
Mr. Gowda,
uniform. Tell me,
let him come.
where does it say it's civilian? It can be army people wearing the uniform. It can be special forces using the uniform. So why are you interpreting it as civilians?
And how did you know they were in a fancy dress competition? One second. One second. One second, Mr. Gowda. Mr. Gowda, this is a country.
Not at all.
Mr. Gowda, I'm sorry to say this. This is a country which has questioned India's credibility on 26/11. This is a country which has sent terrorists and killed 150 plus people in 26/11.
Yes.
You speak in different voices will only make it worse. You speak in different voices, you will make
Not
it
at all.
worse.
Not
And
at all.
forever you have given Pakistan an opportunity to question the credibility of our claims. This is a country that denies Dawood Ibrahim is in Pakistan. So let's be very clear, don't avoid the context. Maruf is responding.
Let me support
Pakistan,
exactly what you're saying.
as has been
One,
pointed out on this show
historically
already. As has
Pakistan
been
for
pointed out
every
on this
issue
show already.
has stuck to straws in the wind. And in the case of even 26/11, one junior bureaucrat statement is now being seen as Pakistan as a face saver that Pakistan was not involved in 26/11. Are we such a bunch of idiots that we don't know that for the last 25 years, the Pakistan army has made an industry of bleeding us by 1,000 cuts and is in complete cahoots with the Lashkar-e-Toiba. They started with the Hizbul Mujahideen, then they went to the JUD, and then they went to HUA,
Yes.
and now they're going to LET, because LET has the same recruitment pattern of the Pakistan army, and they can double as cousins of each other, if not real brothers.
So the
Long and short of what I'm saying is, if Mr. Anthony had walked into South Block 3 days ago and then made the statement, I think I would have given him the benefit of doubt. But having been India's defense minister, having seen the Indian army fight the longest war in fighting insurgencies that perhaps any army in the history of the world has fought, and then you turn around and say that I still have doubts whether these guys are Pakistan. By the way, special forces is part of the regular army. Special forces are not God's own kids. They are regular army, they are under control of Rawalpindi, and if anybody has any shade of doubt, please pick up a book on Pakistan army and understand how it works.
I want to know tonight from the Congress representative who is saying that our intention was not to provoke. Mr. Gowda, you thought it was the Venezuelan army wearing Pakistan army uniforms? You thought it was the Colombian army or the Egyptian army wearing Pakistan army uniforms? What was your proof that it was a fancy dress competition? Did you not know? Did you not know? Though it's not a light statement, it's a very serious comment, you should take it seriously. In February 2010, after 26/11, we gave the list of 33 terrorists, Pakistani nationals as well as Indian fugitives to the government of Pakistan. And we saw Salman Bashir, Pakistan's foreign secretary, say this is literature, not evidence. They said it was literature, not evidence. Mr. Gowda, you have given that country which has questioned our evidence an alibi forever. KC Singh wants to come in. Yes.
I'm not even going that far back, though I have experience of dealing with the counter-terrorism mechanism.
Yeah.
Let me simply say, 3 days before this, there's a suicide attack on your consulate in Jalalabad. Sources in Kabul say the Pakistan army is involved. Now you don't want to offend them, you don't name them. Then 3 days later, they do this on your border. So how does it help not naming them?
I put that question. Let's get DP Tripathi. Let's get DP Tripathi back. Yeah. Mr. Tripathi, you know, in the context of the fact that Pakistan has always questioned the credibility of every Indian claim, was this not a very self-destructive, suicidal and dangerous thing to do? To rewrite the first press release in such a manner that gave Pakistan a long rope?
No,
Mr.
I don't.
It's called turning your other cheek.
Let him respond.
Agree, Mr. Goswami, it is not upturn or flip-flop. What happens is a minister works under the system. An experienced diplomat like Mr. K.C. Singh knows this. Minister's statements don't emanate from his individual imaginations. And so do prime ministers. Especially in your relationship with neighbors. One point which I want to make at this time of crisis also, and there has been continuous crisis between India and Pakistan. That I agree with Mr. Maruf Raza. So therefore we have to see certain changes. For the first time, Mr. Goswami, in Pakistan, an elected government has not merely completed 5 years, but
Mr. Tripathi,
a transition has come. There are very contradictory relationships between the army, ISI and the democratic forces in Pakistan. So we should firmly deal with both these aspects of political reality in Pakistan.
Why is it my concern?
And this is not something which government is doing wrong.
We don't know who is in
All
control
governments have done this in India.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tripathi, that is Pakistan's problem.
I know the most important
where is Pakistan's problem? How is it my problem? And by the way, Mr. Tripathi, my bigger question is, I see a pattern in this. Because when the Chinese incursions took place in April, the initial reports pointed to an open divergence in the views expressed and informed by the army and that by the Indian government. I remember RPN saying 40 Chinese troops camping in 4 tents is not an intrusion. I remember Mr. Salman Khurshid's rather strange comment that it was only acne. This was the comment and the observations of the Indian government. So Mr. Gowda, the question is this: your government had made similar mistakes in the past, and your government is the same government which 7 months after 26/11 compromised national interest by signing the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, the joint declaration, in which you completely de-linked terror with the composite dialogue process. So there is a pattern. There is a pattern in this, and also brought in Baluchistan.
I have to make only 2 or 3 points. Number one, see, here is a case of Obama cancelling his visit to meeting with Putin just on a small pretext of somebody being given asylum. And this is how countries treat other countries when they don't agree with it. Number one. Number two, here is a defense minister who was in China, and the Chinese army chief literally issued a warning to India that
so
if
what's
you
your point to the Congress? What's your point to the
Congress? We are going to punish you.
So what's your point to the Congress representative?
Instead of returning from the meeting, he shook hands, he stayed there, and then not only that, he invited the Chinese army to do business with India. This is absolutely shameful, number one. Number two, Mr. Tripathi was mentioning something about the system. Mr. Maruf Raza will bear me out. The army sends a report from the LOC, it comes to the defense secretary, it comes to the defense minister, there is a statement which is prepared, and then it is shown to the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister clears it. All the ministers who are in charge of all these things are all in the loop. You see, it is not just a statement of one defense minister. It is the entire government which stands condemned.
I think after this we will go back to the Congress, because I think they have to defend on several points tonight. But before that, once again to Kunal Verma. Rajiv, coming to you.
If you look at the Poonch sector, it is actually absolutely unbelievable what they are saying, because the Poonch sector, we are kind of interlocked with Pakistan like this. There is no question. I mean, there's a post called Langur, for example. Parts of it are held by us, by Pakistan, by us. In Poonch, it is like literally cheek by jowl. If something happens there, it has to be the Pakistan army. What are they splitting hair all about?
And did your government ever think, Mr. Gowda, the impact of all of this on our forces, on the army? Because essentially, Mr. Gowda, why did your government contradict the truth put out by the army. You know, you basically were saying yesterday that the army put out wrong facts in the public domain. By doing so, you have performed a grievous and unforgivable error of accusing your army of putting out falsehoods. The same army which defends us, the same soldiers who defend us, who lay down their lives for us, your government, while building a case for the government of Pakistan and the army of Pakistan, Mr. Gowda, yesterday accused your army of spreading falsehoods. Now, is that not serious, Mr. Gowda? You look exasperated, but that is the fact. You accused the army of spreading falsehoods. Why did you do that?
Arnab, it's a question of clarifying information. We do not want the wrong facts to be aired. We want to make sure that in a sensitive matter like this, the right information is aired. If there is an error, it is unnecessarily controversial.
No, so if you put out a falsehood, it is a truth. And if they put out a truth, Mr. Gowda, by your logic, it is a falsehood.
No, it's a question of clarification. After the clarification of facts, things have been laid out. Now, Arnab, go back to that original statement of the defense minister.
No, one second. Your government and your foreign minister said that the army put out the wrong version.
Let me finish, Arnab.
Accept that.
Yeah, so, no, we basically said we need to confirm the facts before the final version. And that's exactly what has happened. Now go back to the
said the army made a mistake.
Look at the number of examples.
Your foreign minister said the army made a mistake.
Look at the number of examples in the statement which show how well the army has done in terms of preventing incursions, in terms of thwarting terrorist attacks. So nobody is saying that the army has not done a great job.
Mr. Gowda,
we are very happy about
Mr.
that.
Gowda,
Instead,
I now have a statement which proves that your government accused the army of putting out wrong facts, and also, if I am not mistaken, accused the army of exceeding its brief.
To try to demoralize the army. It is not the government that has done that, and that is you who is trying to demoralize the army. Please cut it out.
Mr. Gowda, you can be sure of the facts, because I am sure of mine. I don't think you're sure of your facts, because I will now read out what your foreign minister said yesterday. Your foreign minister said the army went out with a general view, and then they realized their mistake, and they had to send out a corrected statement, right? And then he also had said yesterday, are you saying that nobody has the right to correct the statement if they think they have exceeded the brief according to the facts they have? This is what your government said yesterday.
Yeah.
How demoralizing is that?
So,
for the army which put out the right facts from Jammu.
Not at all.
That because you want to do your diplomacy, your Sharm el-Sheikh type diplomacy in New York, that's why you will compromise the facts?
Arnab, the facts, as the facts come in, the facts become clear, right? At the very immediate moment, whatever information was available, and there were multiple points of view on that, now the defense minister has laid the issue to rest. He has placed the final facts on the table of the House.
Not whatever information was available.
Rebuts. Time for rebuts. The Congress representative's argument is... Let him complete. I think he's one versus several. I think we should give him more time. Yeah, let him complete his point. Mr. Gowda, complete your point. I know you are one against several and you have only one more person supporting you on a panel of 6, so I let you complete your point before I get a rebut. But let me tell you, Mr. Gowda...
It is not one against several. It is all of us for India and for the Indian Army and for the Indian national interest. And it is in the national interest to ensure that we don't break off talks overnight like this. We have to continue. Pakistan is in a very, very delicate situation. The army is out there to try and sabotage
How is it, Mr. Gowda?
You know all
how is it in the national interest?
The cat is out of the bag.
How is it? I just want to tell you. I want to ask you one thing, Mr. Gowda.
You don't want peace with your neighbors?
There was a meeting.
You do not want peace with your neighbors? You do not want peace? I'm asking you the simple question, Arnab Goswami. Is it not in the
let him complete the point.
have a peaceful neighborhood? Is it not in the Indian national interest to have peaceful relations with neighbors?
Mr. Gowda, you asked that question, which is essentially a nice and rhetorical question. Do you not want to talk to your neighbors? No, 1 minute. 1 minute. It's not a question of whether you want to talk to your neighbors. It is a question of whether you want to be run over by your neighbors And the question is, the Pakistani Deputy High Commissioner met the MEA yesterday. That was one version which said we have nothing to do with it. You had another version coming from the army which said the Pakistan army did it. The country is asking you today, Mr. Gowda, tell us, why did you believe the Pakistan Deputy High Commissioner and not your own army? Why did you believe the government of Pakistan and not your own army?
You have five
Who
boys.
do you choose to believe?
You have 5 boys from 21 Bihar who have been killed, and we are sitting here talking about this and that.
Yes.
We should have had immediate retribution on the spot. Leave it to the commanders on the ground. Your young leadership in the army is fantastic. Give them a chance to just hold the ground and see what happens.
More than that, I just want to substantiate another point. There are
We've already seen
standard
that.
operating procedures, rules of engagement on the LOC. Commanders on the ground do not need permission from higher up to respond to a situation like this up to a point. Even the Corps Commander in 16 Corps, which looks after this area from Poonch downwards right up to Jammu, can even use artillery fire if he so desires and thinks it's appropriate. The whole problem in India is that we have uninformed political leadership who's trying to tell the army what to do.
Exactly.
And you're questioning the integrity of one institution which for 65 years has laid down its life to prove its commitment to the country. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? And you keep saying that the army's version is different. The army has a mechanism to vet out every word that a senior officer signs and puts up to his superior. Whereas here we have been obsessed since independence with the politics of personalities. We think personalities can turn history around. I am sorry. Even diplomatic jargon and diplomatic initiatives need a whole mechanism to work, and Pakistan's system is not working in one direction like we want them to work. Don't you realize that Pakistan is not Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, that you can fly in and have a peace deal with them? Pakistan has a vested interest in keeping India preoccupied with the military dimension of Kashmir, because the military's budgetary incentives come from the conflict levels that they escalate in Kashmir. If we haven't understood that for so long, I'm sorry, we are not on the same page.
So, Mr. Tripathi's turn to respond now. He's been listening patiently.
There is
Mr.
nothing
Tripathi,
new
your
that you have
response to
said.
Maruf Raza
There is nothing
on this
new that
stage
you
of the
have said.
debate.
And also the peace talks that
let
he is
Mr.
talking about.
Tripathi
I
respond.
entirely agree with Mr. Maruf Raza on 2 points, which are major points in defense and security management, especially internal security management between two neighboring countries. That is that you cannot have peaceful dialogue without having order on the border. It is essential ingredient of any long-term strategic international policy, especially with the neighbors. At times, but geography decides historical developments. And that reality is very much between India and Pakistan. What Mr. Raza says, I entirely agree with him, that they are in the process, there are institutions in Pakistan which are making us bleed on our borders, especially on not only in borders, but the spread of terrorism. I'm not going into all the details for paucity time.
Why are you again
But while
giving Nawaz
agreeing with
Sharif a
him,
clean
I
sheet?
wish
How
to
do you
say
not know? Do
that-
you not know the history of Kargil, sir? Why are you giving the Pakistan
Kargil has
government a
happened,
clean
we
sheet?
all
And
know
Mr.
our armed forces brought
Mr.
a-
Tripathi, Mr.
Let me
Tripathi,
complete my sentence.
just
at least.
go back and turn the clock.
Yeah.
I say 7 months, Mr. Tripathi, right? There was unanimity in holding Pakistan
Yeah.
responsible during the beheading incident in January across party lines, including yours. Pakistan denied absolutely
Yeah,
any role.
entirely.
In this case, we have given them, the government of India has given them an excellent opportunity to question the credibility of our claims.
See, this
And
is what-
Hina Rabbani Khar is not a Pakistani
No,
general.
complete.
Hina Rabbani Khar is not the Pakistan army. Hina Rabbani Khar made that ridiculous, shameless comment when she said, any statement from billions of Indians does not deserve a response. She said that. Now that's not Pakistani army. Mr.
What is the
Tripathi, who will
basis of
believe you
that?
if you say,
The
you know, the
basis of
Pakistan
that is
army is
what
responsible? We should keep having
Maruf
lunch with
Raza
Nawaz Sharif.
said that their essence of strategic policy is conflict, not conflict resolution. And ours, as a democratic system,
With whom are you trying to
the
resolve
essence of our
conflict?
strategic
No,
formulation
one second,
is
Seshadri
conflict
Chari is responding to you, Mr. Chari. Mr. Tripathi.
I really want to know from all these politicians who are talking
Yeah.
about this. They can easily accuse the opposition saying that they are warmongers. They can say the media is trying to create trouble and foment trouble
Yes.
and sensitize the issue. But the most important issue is, whom are you talking to? If you are talking to the army, it's a different case.
Yes.
Are you talking to the political establishment? Here is the Prime Minister of Pakistan who was said that he made friendship with India a political issue, an election issue, and won on that basis. And here is also a Prime Minister who has not issued a single statement about this incident for the last 4 days. Don't tell me that the Prime Minister of Pakistan does not know about this. It is only today that he has issued a statement, and even that statement does not
Today he has issued a statement because he was away.
Yesterday the
for
PMO
Umrah in Saudi
officials
Arabia.
denied anything, and it said that there were mischievous reports of the PMO's involvement in it, which itself I find strange because the National Security Advisor, Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh, Shiv Shankar Menon, DGMO, Defence Ministry officers were all there vetting the statement. This statement, the wrong statement of Antony, was vetted according to sources by Sujata Singh, Foreign Secretary, and NSA Shiv Shankar Menon.
And PMO is directly involved in this.
Yeah, so this, what do we learn? What do we learn here? The question is, Mr. KC Singh, we go back to Sharm el-Sheikh. 7 months after 26/11, under a Congress-led government, under Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, that act of so-called magnanimity happened when we let Pakistan off. Is this as big as that?
Arnab, this is anxiety to negotiate, anxiety to settle disputes. And I think you never should deal with a complex neighboring country out of great anxiety to settle things with them. Now, any informed columnist in India, every informed strategic analyst has been saying ever since the elections took place in Pakistan, let's wait and see how Nawaz Sharif rebalances the relationship with the jihadis whose support he has taken to win the election, and with the army with whom he has a difficult relationship, because they are the ones who banished him, and he's got Musharraf jailed there and under trial. Therefore, until you see him rebalance the relationships, simply taking his word, when you say the Deputy High Commissioner of Pakistan came in, he must have come in with a message saying it'll become very difficult for Nawaz Sharif to deal with the situation if you escalate it at this end. Now, that is not the way to deal with Pakistan. You have to have your red lines. You keep the door open. Now, the argument that Congress gives is that anyone who says be cautious is a warmonger.
Yes.
Now, it is not warmongering to say deal with them with your eyes open, wait, have patience, see how their domestic situation pans out. What is the leverage that Nawaz Sharif has? I would have seen Nawaz Sharif as an appropriate interlocutor if within hours of the incident, he had picked up the phone, spoken to the Indian Prime Minister and said, Prime Minister, I'll have my government, my army inquire into it. We haven't done it. Our army says they haven't done it, but I think it merits an inquiry. Yeah. No, they said nothing has happened. There are 20 people who come from Pakistan, cross a fence, kill, go back into Pakistan, and the picket doesn't even know about it. Pakistan army doesn't even know about it. I mean,
Mr. Gowda, the bottom line is this. Let there be no doubt about it. Your government, vis-a-vis Pakistan, looks, I'm sorry to say, spineless and very, very weak. Now, we want to know the reason, the compelling reason behind the weakness.
Anxiety.
The weakness. Yeah. The weakness that your government is displaying vis-a-vis Pakistan. 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, Sharm el-Sheikh, and this. Every year, Mr. Gowda, tonight I will present you one example, if you want, of the weakness that has been shown by your government. We want to know what is it that makes your government so weak, perhaps the weakest government in upholding national interest vis-a-vis Pakistan. Why, Mr. Gowda? Why?
Arnab, why did you stop with just the last 4, 5, 6 years? Why don't you go back to the last 10, 15 years and see how every government has dealt with this kind of an issue? These issues have to be dealt with.
You don't want to talk about the 4, 5, 6 years? Because I'll tell you, I'll talk post 26/11. Post 26/11, you did Sharm el-Sheikh, right? In January 2009, they rejected it. They warned your government. The Pakistan government warned Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, you make allegations and there will be no serious and objective investigations into the incident. No, after 26/11. No, watch it. Your Prime Minister softened, the Prime Minister softened his line. They sent you another warning in 2010. They warned you in 2011. They mocked you in 2012. And yet your Prime Minister, knowing The Prime Minister of India knows that there has been no progress into 2611. I'm asking you, why is the Prime Minister so weak vis-a-vis Pakistan? Why?
But this mindset has
Why?
been there throughout.
No, I want an explanation on why.
Even in Simla, they did the same thing in 71. Mr. Gowda wants to go back. Let's go back.
We need a peaceful neighborhood, right? So let us work out arrangements in such a manner that we get there. If the Pakistani army is intending to destabilize any chance of peace, okay, then, yeah, then we need to be careful.
Mr. Gowda, I'm afraid you're going to get some strong reactions to this. Maruf first.
Let me just educate Mr. Gowda, sir, if I can have the liberty of doing that. You talk of a peaceful neighborhood.
You know what?
In
Whatever
the
you
last
said earlier
3
was
to
nothing
4
new,
years,
Mr.
you have
Maruf.
ruined relations with everybody in the neighborhood.
Including
You've
Bhutan.
taken Sri Lanka out of your friendship loop by getting the UN to sanction Sri Lanka for human rights abuses. You had Bangladesh ready to go in for a deal, but Mamata Banerjee hijacked it, or whatever the reasons. You don't have... Bangladesh's current government has done more to support India in the last 2 years than perhaps any government has done. And you've given them nothing to take to the polls next year.
Is that the only answer?
Bhutan, your
Bhutan,
one friend in the neighbor,
Bhutan.
and you've kind of painted them into the corner. Look at today's Times of India's top page. It says, top of the front page says, how India never learns.
Never.
Since 2004 to now, last 10 years you have been in power. Repeatedly there have been diplomatic faux pas. And you're trying to tell me that you want a peaceful neighborhood? Are you of the opinion that Pakistan, is going to offer you more than what we can offer Pakistan? Sir, if I can have the liberty of educating you, our GDP is 9 to 10 times bigger than Pakistan today.
Yeah.
Another 8 years, our GDP is going to be 20 times bigger than
Absolutely.
Pakistan. When we have that kind of strategic assets to us, Pakistan knows that their window to extract anything from us is going to close in the next 3 years. And you are willing to go with open arms and tell Pakistan, le lo jo chahte hai, aap le lo humse. Now, what is the reason? Why are we, except if I may be allowed to infer, that certain personal ambitions are pushing us in that direction.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry to say, sir, national interest is not about personal ambition. National interest is about public opinion. And you are not responding to public opinion.
What
you are
is
taking a completely different route.
If there is...
I take serious offense to this. Cut it out. Cut it out. Do not mix up.
First of all, Mr. Gowda, please, accept the facts here today. It is quite clear that your government is trying to save its scheduled talks with Pakistan. 5 Indian soldiers have died, and more than just saying cut it out, you need to listen to the other side. This display of arrogance is no answer. You need to ask yourself why your government is trying to save its scheduled talks in New York. What have you achieved? Cut what out, Mr. Gowda? Cut what out? When Pakistan asked India to provide credible evidence and we did nothing, did you ask Pakistan to cut it out? When the statement of Ajmal Kasab was not accepted, did you ask them to cut it out? When Pakistan says the dossier on Hafiz Saeed is literature, not evidence, did you ask them to cut it out, Mr. Gowda? And if you didn't ask them to cut it out, then why do you want this question to be cut out, Mr. Gowda? Did you ever tell the Pakistanis to cut it out, Mr. Gowda? On each of the 4 occasions that I put to you. When they put the question in Sharm el-Sheikh and they said they insisted on the inclusion of Balochistan, did you tell the Pakistanis cut it out?
That's even
did you tell them to cut it out then?
Arnav, one more thing, the Congress also needs to answer one more question. In 2004, Pakistan agreed in writing to link terrorism and talks. They had specifically said that they will not allow Pakistan held portions or the areas to be used for any terrorist activity against India.
Mr. Gowda,
in Sharm el-Sheikh, we agreed to talk to Pakistan, terrorism or no terrorism.
I want to know, Mr. Gowda, it's your party President Sonia Gandhi. Your party President Sonia Gandhi has accused Pakistan of deceit. Your party President Sonia Gandhi, in a press release, in case you don't remember, has asked the government to take appropriate action. And my informed sources tell me, Mr. Gowda, that the initial comment that was to be put out by Sonia Gandhi was in fact even stronger, but they moderated it because they didn't want to embarrass the government further. Would you tell your party president to cut it out? Would you tell your party president to cut it out, Mr. Gowda?
That's a good one.
Would you tell Sonia Gandhi to cut it out,
Okay.
Mr.
Absolutely
Gowda?
not. Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Thank you. Basically, there was a
Well, then you shouldn't tell the other side to cut it out, because you should be aware of your own party's position, Mr. Gowda. I think that point is proven. KC Singh, where is this going?
That's all right. I am.
Okay, let him speak.
You know, Arnab, time and again, there's been this duality in the government's approach. It's been known that this desire to have a final grand bargain with Pakistan and somehow have a final settlement of all the disputes is something which resides in Prime Minister's mind. And his advisors they go on feeding it and go on supporting it. But there is a large view in the Congress party which contradicts it. And I think the Defence Minister today stood up and really reflected that point of view. Because I have never heard any other Defence Minister stand up and say that the consequences for a behaviour on the line of control will henceforth be different. I think kudos to him. What he is telling the army is, give back as good as you get. And this is the Defence Minister of India. So it is not the opposition, it's not us in the public space. It's the Defence Minister of India who's telling the Parliament and telling the Pakistanis exactly what should have been told in the first place.
What is this? What is this?
Secondly,
what is this new romance with Pakistan, Mr. Gowda? No, one second, Mr. Gowda, why is this new romance with Pakistan that even your own foreign minister thinks that Hafiz Saeed does not have links with the Pakistani state? You know, what is this new emerging?
There is a duality.
The new emerging, and if I may say, a desperate kind of romance building up. Which makes your own foreign minister say that Hafiz Saeed does not have links with the Pakistani state. Have you forgotten that the Punjab government in Pakistan announced a 61 million rupee grant to the Lashkar-e-Toiba through the Jamaat-ud-Dawa? Did you tell your government then cut it out? Don't say these things. Delinking the killer of 2611 from the Pakistani state and contradicting the nation's position.
The Defence Minister, as somebody just pointed out, has drawn the red line. I think you're going to see a very, very stern relationship going forward. And let us not be warmongers. Let us try to figure out how to resolve these issues. And that's where, you know, we should be moving as the nation moves forward on this very sensitive and delicate issue.
Oh, no. Well, closing comments. I have 1 minute left on this debate. Yes, please. Let's get Kunal in first. Then I'll come close with you, Maru. Yes, Kunal.
So, you see, the whole business, every time something happens and there is a reaction to it, we start talking of warmongering and stuff like that. Basically, the issue is, it has to be limited to the guys on the ground. The moment a guy turns around and says an incident has happened, what orders do I want? This is what they've been laughing at us for centuries. Ki tumhare orders to Delhi se aate. I mean, we have to. If Mr. Antony has said this today, this has to become the actual thing, not just something to thump at tables in Parliament and say, very good, we've made a statement.
It's not about a political victory on the floor of the House.
Exactly.
It's much greater than that. Maru, what are the lessons?
Well, 3 quick points. One is that we are not saying go to war with Pakistan. All that we are saying is look at Pakistan from a realistic prism. Second point which I want to make is history has shown only when the Pakistan army has been co-opted into the dialogue process have concessions been made and which have stood the test of time. The ceasefire line agreement, the Indus Water Treaty agreement and the LOC agreement. Beyond that, if the Pakistan army is not in the loop, you can forget it, and I'm sorry to say that some of our diplomatic and bureaucratic friends will have to make space for this if you want a long-term arrangement. And third point which I want to leave behind, that I hope months and weeks down the line, we don't forget those who continue to give their life in the line of duty, because today this is big news and even politicians are narrowing themselves into the alleys where these families live. But a few weeks down the line, we will go back to arguing with each other over other larger issues. Please, please remember, the soldier on the front line needs the support of the political leadership to the last round and last minute. If you don't give him that, I think his sacrifices will go in vain.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me on debate number 1 on the Newshour tonight. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.